Welcome to the Pro Aging Podcast. I'm Steve Gurney, founder of Positive Aging Sourcebook. We're excited that you can join us for our interactive discussions with pioneers and thought leaders on a wide variety of topics related to aging and longevity. Today, we are really excited to have an interactive discussion with Dr. Bill Thomas, author, entrepreneur, musician, teacher, farmer, and physician, whose wide-ranging work explores the terrain of human aging. Bill is the founder of the Eden Alternative, creator of the Greenhouse, Minka building system, and Magic, which is the multi-ability, multi-generational inclusive communities. So let's jump into the discussion with Dr. Bill Thomas. However, first let's get to know my co-host for this discussion, Eleanor Alvarez, CEO of LeaderStat. I am delighted to have you be a co-host for me with this discussion for a wide variety of reasons. I met Eleanor because we were in the first cohort at the UMZC Erickson School of Aging Studies, which is where I also met Bill Thomas. He was a professor there. But Eleanor, for those folks that don't know who you are, give us a little bit of a glimpse at your background. And you've got some exciting recent projects that you've been involved in as well.
Thank you, Steve. I started in the field of aging at 25, and I was an ombudsman, a little known fact. Then I worked as an administrator, director of operations for 20 years in the skilled nursing area. 20 years ago, I started a company called LeaderStat, and we help bring leadership support and strength to post-acute. 5 years ago, I started a standalone specialized memory care center. We built our first one, and our second one is ready to open this June. A couple years ago, I started really working on my dream project, which is to redesign the wheelchair. So we're in our second prototype, something that really I conceived when we were at the Erickson School in the innovation program. I'm finally able to work on it, but I feel like the wheelchair is one of the most impersonal, uncomfortable devices we use all the time. And there's so much opportunity to bring comfort and innovation. So that's probably one of the most favorite things I'm working on.
Oh, I love it. And, one of the things that I love about these digital discussions, that's what we call these things now, is it really reminds me of our time together there at UMBC, where, we'd have a professor like Bill Thomas throw out some wacky ideas, and then we would just come together and engage with each other with the professor as the guide. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about these discussions. And that's one of the main reasons that I wanted you here with me as we talk to Bill Thomas. But we're going to get to Bill in a moment. I want to introduce one other person before we bring Bill on, and that's Jacob Lupo, who is with Caption Call. Jacob, if you want to jump on the screen there.
Hey.
I first want to thank you for your support this month. And we're kicking off the month with a great program, but let's get to know you, Jacob. Tell us a little bit about your background, what led you to joining Caption Call, and then tell us a little bit about Caption Call. And we're going to see you and your colleagues throughout the month this month.
Sure will. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to sponsor. We're really excited to be a part of this. So my name's Jacob. I see some familiar names in the chat. So nice to see you, Georgette and Ted. But we are super excited to be here. I came by Caption Call's way almost 2 years ago, but my background is in special education. And I was actually reflecting this morning, all through high school, I served elderly folk with disabilities. So I've sort of been blessed to have, fallen into that sort of passion-based work, and always had roles in my jobs where it just aligns really well with my character and my need to serve. So that's sort of why I'm here at Caption Call. We are a service that is no cost, funded through the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we help folks that have hearing loss to stay socially connected through caption phones and caption apps. So you'll be learning more throughout the month about what we do and get to meet some of my colleagues. We serve the whole US, so we'll have opportunities for you to schedule meetings with us. I'll actually drop my info and my Calendly link in the chat.
I love it. All right. So yeah, Jacob, if you want to drop behind the curtain there, then we can kick off our discussion with Dr. Bill Thomas. If Bill, if you want to jump from outside the curtain, and we'll kick things off. There he is. This is great. So before we kind of jump in, I want to sort of recap this wacky year that we had. Never used Zoom before March of 2020, and we transferred our live events to these digital discussions, where we used to do 1 or 2 live events. Now we do 2 or 3 a month. Now we do 2 or 3 of these a week. And I want to give a big shout out to Aging Life Care Manager Kate Caldwell, who unfortunately couldn't be on the call today, but she was the one that really encouraged me to kind of try to bring our community online. But then one of our first discussions was we had everybody listen to this podcast that Bill did with Senior Housing News on how things were going to be in the pandemic. It was just so insightful. It's a great discussion, but I looked at the calendar, and that was on April 10th of last year, just a year and 3 days away. So Bill, welcome. And Eleanor, do you have any insights that you want to kind of share about Bill and how he's helped you?
Bill, I think you know this. You have been one of the guiding lights for me and for so many other people along the way. And my thoughts went back to, and I hope at some point you'll talk about this, when you wrote your book in 2004, you changed aging for a lot of us and the way we view the world. I'd love to know now, where you're almost, you're still a few years out from the 20-year anniversary. When you look back at your book, tell us maybe later on in the conversation, but I'd love to hear what you see for our next 20 years. You have held that big light for us.
Awesome.
Well, yeah.
And so Bill, I promise I'm going to shut up. Nobody wants to hear me talk anymore. But I know a lot of people in our audience, this is their first exposure to you. And if you don't mind, can you do sort of an amended recap, and then let's just jump in to having some fun and talking about what's on your mind?
Kind of an amended recap of what I've been up to in my career.
Of your background.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could do it fast.
Cool.
So I am a free range geriatrician. So I'm a physician by background and training, and then a geriatrician. And I found early in my career that I could practice medicine in ways that were not as conventional. So I became an author, a novelist, and a playwright. Started a theater company and toured the country for 5 years, performing nonfiction theater about aging and reinterpreting the experience of aging. My wife and I founded the Eden Alternative, which some of you have heard of. We created the greenhouse model, which some of you have experience with. And in Silver Spring, Maryland, actually, designed and booted up the first senior ER in America. Probably the world, I don't know, but I never checked. But certainly in America. And then I've been really, really, really interested in the nexus between housing, independence, and services and support. And actually, I think this is the playground, to get kind of what Eleanor was talking about. This is the playground, our playground for the next 20 years, in my opinion.
Man, I love it.
I totally agree with you. Housing is that platform that has to be secure before anything else can happen.
I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, just kind of jumping in on the greenhouse, which you founded that model, and you're the self-proclaimed nursing home abolitionist. That I love that title. But isn't it awesome to see how much positive press in this last year where nursing homes have been down in the dumps, how much positive press the greenhouse and the small house model of nursing homes are getting.
Yeah, I'm a lot of people on this call probably saw the journal article in JAMDA that showed a spectacular reduction in mortality based on the design and the culture and the training. And Eleanor, I wouldn't be surprised if you had similar results, because I've been to your place and I know you guys. Yeah, so it is not exclusively greenhouse. Go ahead, Eleanor.
And I thank you every day, Dr. Thomas, because a lot of our design was based on what you've done. We did not have any resident contract the virus because we have the small house design. And even though we had staff members that were positive, you know, obviously when we did all the right things, no resident actually was transmitted that virus. And so we really believe the small house configuration and the private rooms had a huge amount to do with it. Good infection control too, but right?
Yep, that's right. But can I just say, you know, so that's you make a really important point there, which is you've got a design, you know, you've got architecture, you've got square feet, but you also need the culture. And so some people in the field have gotten a little off kilter by focusing only on the floor plan and not really addressing the culture at all. And I think that they missed something really important. You got to have both.
You're so right. I mean, you can build that building, but you're not going to achieve the value system and the goals that you want unless you build that culture. And you can build that culture in a different box as well, but it really is about your core values. Yeah,
and like I say, you know, Eden Alternative tries to build the culture in whatever box they find, you know, and people from Eden will tell you that is very, very challenging work. So whenever we can get the architecture to line up with the culture, got to take that opportunity wherever we can find it.
Yeah, I agree.
Love it. Well, Bill, tell us what's on your mind. I mean, this is what I used to love back in the days with UMBC. He would just walk into a classroom and it would just be like, hey guys, this is what I was thinking about on the drive over. And what are you up to? What's on your mind? I understand you got a new book around the corner as well.
Yes, actually. So I'm devoting, as Eleanor said, the next 20 years of my life to the nexus between housing services and that autonomy, dignity, and independence, that cluster of virtue that we all seek, you know. So I'm actually 3/4 of the way through a new 4-volume statement, 4-volume book. I'm writing 4 books. So I have completed 3. I have 1 more to write that will be coming out this year. And these books describe what I think is the way forward for us from this point going ahead. So back to Eleanor, for those who don't know, Eleanor was referring a book I wrote and published in 2004 called What Are Old People For? It's kind of a question. And ironically, Eleanor, I actually reread the book recently because of the work I'm doing on the new thing. And I was like, oh, I agree with that. So it's held up pretty well. But it's time for a new statement. So for people who are interested, and Steve will make sure you let your peeps know, but probably this 4-volume series is going to be out this summer. And I guess I would say to people, if that seems like too much, I will say I've adapted my writing to the new era. So each book is about in writer talk, about 25,000 words. In other words, readable in a sitting. And I've divided it into 4 books. Then rather than writing 1 book that's 500 pages long, and I do think that I've never questioned never, not once. The good heart, the commitment, the spirit of the people I share this field with, never once. However, let me say this plainly. We have not done a good enough job about being clear about what we believe, why we believe it, and what we're going to do about it. Our field, unfortunately, has waffled around in a bit of a stew with some ageism, some paternalism, some aging illiteracy, and we've paid a price for that, and elders have paid a price for that. So going forward, I think we do need much more clarity, much greater precision, because it's going to be up to us. And I'm looking over here on the chat. The people on this sesh, these are the people who are going to invent the future. Okay, these are the people whose hands are on the tiller right now. And I'm addressing you all directly. You by historical accident, you were granted the opportunity to completely remake the system. And if you don't do it, I'm going to be mad. Okay, so do it. And just reorienting the system, it takes clarity. You must pursue clarity. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
So Steve, we do have one comment in the chat session. You might want to reference that.
Yeah. Let's see. Housing independence, services, and supports. Thank you for this foundation of light for the building blocks of home care and care. And
yeah, I actually, so can I say a couple of things about this? Because remember, I was just saying clarity. So let's be clear about a couple of things. And Steve and Eleanor know, and some of the friends I see in the chat know, I will not be shy about pressing for clarity where I think it's useful. So there is a major ethos, probably the dominant ethos in our culture, that lionizes or idealizes aging in place. And this is this notion that the domicile you occupy is a measure of your worth as a person. And worthy old people are the people who maintain a domicile they used to raise a family in, for example, and that's success, when in fact, that house is killing them. And they're socially isolated, they're overburdened, the house is literally eating their money, their time, their energy. And I'm going to say a couple of things about this that I've said to patients I cared for a long time. Older people, and anyone who finds this useful, take it and use it if it's useful. I said, older people, you love your house, but your house does not love you. I get it. But it's not loving you back. In fact, it's hurting you. And people have a hard time reconciling that with the idea that they're a failure if they leave that house. So the second thing I often say to people is small house, big life. And so many people choose big house, small life. Like, don't do that. Think about the house as like a sailboat that is going to take you where you want to go. And you've got to pick the boat that fits, that you can handle, that you can control, and that doesn't overtax you. So anyway, back to this idea of aging in place. I'm actually, I would say, fairly plainly an opponent of aging in place as an ethos. And I'll say the last thing about the, aging in place, which is, if you really, back to precision, if you really study aging in place, a lot of its kind of signifiers and language and images are actually photographic negatives or projected idealizations of the opposite of institutionalization. So we have over here this cluster of nightmares people have about, being forced into an institution and what that might be like. And so we deal with that fear by idealizing this happy, wonderful, aging in place thing that's perfect, when the living in a congregate setting isn't as bad as you think. B, aging in place is not as good as you think. So let's get clear about that. So that's the thing about housing. And the other thing is about service and supports. And both housing and service and supports are going to get more modular. They're going to be blocks that we put together on the fly and that we adapt. In the old days, people used to say, how many levels of care? The fact that we ask that question is a horrifying nightmare. When the answer should always be, well, how many people are there? That's how many levels of care there are. We don't think about levels of care. We think about people, and we think about the housing and services and supports that help them live with dignity and independence. That's what we're after. So, sorry I went on a bit, but our questioner raised, frankly, a really important point. And I want to say to the crew on here, I happen to know there's people on here who are not shy. So get to it. Write me some questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, well, number one, and actually, I love this because Louis Tenenbaum, who's an advocate for universal design and aging in place, you may know Louis, he says, we all need alternatives to meet needs, choices, and dynamics of health. And the condition of the domicile is just as described as a function of design, and our homes were designed before modern longevity.
Can I give you an example of that, Steve? Let's put this in historical context. You ever drive around, if you pay attention to housing, if it's something you geek on, houses built, a lot of the surviving houses built in the late 1800s are pretty big. And then if you drive into a neighborhood that was built in the 20s, say the 20s, 30s, pre-war, the houses are much smaller. What happened? And the answer is electricity. Electricity allowed us to build, compared to the late 19th century, smaller houses. And we shifted away from live-in, that part of the economic sector that built houses that are still standing today. They shifted away from live-in servants and toward electricity, and therefore the houses got smaller. So what Louis is saying is, we built a bunch of houses before we really got down with what's going on with longevity.
Yeah, and now in the comparison, you as a nursing home abolitionist, you looked at those old institutional nursing homes and said, there's got to be a better way. And one of the exciting things is that when you go through new home neighborhoods now, oftentimes you see better designed homes with first floor master bedrooms, with accessible, they're homes for a lifetime. And I think that the whole universal design movement is so challenging because, in essence, what we're doing is we're taking these old homes and trying to turn them into modern, aging in place, opportunities.
And I think it also goes back to, Bill, what you said about, we can build good homes, right? Appropriate size, et cetera. But how are we building community?
Right.
That's what really worries me. When I was trying to find a site for a memory care center, I really wanted to be in the midst of other housing options. And I went to developers and said, hey, you're building this whole new multi-family project. How about this part of the family? Why don't they belong? And they have no interest. Or I didn't.
So,
Let me put it
oh yeah, you're not kidding. So, family for some reason is like a relatively young adults and little cute children. That's a family, but that's a cartoon of a family. Families are really, really diverse and complicated and messy and loving and hateful and everything you can think of. But almost every family has old people who are part of it. I saw, because I saw in the chat here, some people are banging on a
I
point
know.
that is a good one. I'm going to talk very quickly about two things that are, I think, important. One is the legacy of age segregation. So back to Eleanor. So basically what they were saying to you, Eleanor, was, I'm sorry, but we segregate old people around here. Did you not get the memo? And so that's what our society does, is we segregate people by age. And further, our own field goes further. We further segregate them by ability. So we create models that are segregated by age and ability. And what you asked, Eleanor, about the next 20 years. In the next 20 years, I think we are going to be in a situation where we're going to move away from that kind of segregation to multi-age, multi-generational, inclusive communities. So working with the University of Southern Indiana, little shout out there. I saw somebody on the calls from Indiana. We developed this open source concept of magic, which just is a way of thinking about how do we create communities that include people of different ages, different abilities, different backgrounds, because that's actually the source of strength in a community, is that people being different strengthens the community, because you get interlocking opportunities for reciprocity. And when you segregate people by age and sort them by ability, you actually aggravate ageism and you stigmatize. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, in the future, I think our field's going to go in a different direction on this. The other thing I'll say, and I see it mentioned here about Minka, I do believe that we're on the cusp of a kind of shift that's similar to what happened to computers with the shift from mainframes to PCs, personal computers. In our field, mainframes are large purpose-built buildings, highly regimented and segregated in terms of their form and function. I'm not saying anything about it, that's what it is. And personal computers in the future are actually smaller domiciles, dwellings, houses, whatever you want to call them, places to live, that are much more adaptable to the person, that are tightly clustered with a deliberate effort to cultivate community and reciprocity. And so the Minka approach is really an attempt to move in that direction, to kind of develop a new architecture that is congenial to community. So as I was castigating aging in place, I think the future is aging in community. And those communities better be really different. And they should reflect the people living there. And there shouldn't be a one size fits all.
Great.
Steve, we got a lot of things.
We got a lot of questions. This is great.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start with Ravi Bala, who says, do you consider Silver Nest homes as purely aging in place, or is it more of a hybrid?
All right. So I'm a huge Silver Nest fan. If people don't know about it, check it out. Go see them. I ask one question: how many empty bedrooms are there in America? Oh my God. How expensive are those empty bedrooms? Why wouldn't people use a service like Silver Nest to set up a shared household and to make that bigger house function more like it was designed to function. So I like Silvernest, and I think that Silvernest is a leader in this approach to shared households, and I think they're on to it, and you should check them out.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
He also throws out two other organizations,
Yeah.
Upside Home, which is taking apartment buildings and sort of repurposing them, and Care Pods.
Yeah, fantastic. This is what I'm talking about. Is there anybody on this call that wants to make $1 million? Well, get busy, because here, instead of us going down a predefined track, these are entrepreneurs and companies that are making cool stuff happening, and you should too. All right, Bill, this is Sally Ann. When you get to the point in life where you need for services is imminent. Oh, I'd love to talk about this. Can you describe your best situation? I think she's talking about me. Choice of housing option. So let me just say this. We don't think about it, but there are two curves that are active in our whole life. Just stick with me for a second. And poor Eleanor and Steve, this is what they went through in the cohort.
No, just let it rip. That's why you're here.
All right. This is a horrifying flashbacks that they're getting here. But there's a curve that is what your reserve capacity is, what you can kind of get done yourself, okay? And then there's a curve of what the people around you are capable of helping you with. So when you're born, oh my God, you can't hardly do anything for yourself. But if you're fortunate enough to be born into a healthy family, there are people around you who've got loads of reserve capacity, and we call that parenting. And they're willing to let you run a deficit for like 20 years or even more, and support you as you get your curve up. So then you get into a place where actually you're able to largely, mostly, function without having to really rely on that reservoir of family and friend support. Okay, then, and this is what the question's getting at, there comes a point in your life where it's like, wow, my capacity is actually I'm getting closer to that point where I'm going to really be relying in a substantial way on people around me. And you have to ask, what's their capacity? So if you have 11 daughters, you don't send any of them to college, and they all live within a mile of you, you're like totally set. I mean, 5 of them can hate you and you're still set. All right.
Bill, why do they have to be daughters?
Well, because our culture takes advantage of unpaid female caregiving. We say family caregiving, but really the great majority of it is women serving in unpaid roles in the family, sometimes with really great feelings, and sometimes out of a tremendous sense of obligation.
Yep.
So that's why I chose that example. But back to the kind of the question here. So for me, I don't have that family construct. So I'm going to need to be thoughtful about where I live and my social network, because if I live in a smaller dwelling and I have a lot of friends and family around me, those curves are not going to cross for a longer period of time. And if I live alone in a big house and hardly any of my family or friends are around me, those curves are going to cross a lot sooner. You following me? So she's asking, what's the best sitch for me? I say, for me, what I'm looking forward to is a small house, close to people I care about, and that allow me to both give and receive support by and through other people, and then adding in paid caregivers where they can make a difference in my dignity and independence. And then I go to the great beyond. It's guaranteed. absolutely mortality rate 100%. So Heidi, how can the current nursing home system, which is so labor intensive and expensive, where'd it go? There it is, ever become solvent while providing really good care and giving the employees a good wage and a good work-life balance? Do we need to reinvent all of it? Yes. So we do, but here's the beauty. A large fraction of the nursing homes in America are buildings that really need some heavy maintenance and that are highly depreciated. Not all. There's some out there that are actually pretty new and are in great shape. But those buildings that they've already crossed the end of their real practical life should be demolished. And on that same land, they should take advantage of the property, the entitlement, the legal use that's already established, and rebuild a home and community-based alternative to the nursing home, so that people can actually live on the same dirt, but actually the nursing home is gone and now it's an HCBS community. This is a concept I think is going to be very important going forward, is that we're going to create deliberate, carefully designed HCBS communities where the housing matches the available home and community-based services, and there's a supportive culture and community that you can become part of. So I'm for, some people know I have called it bulldozer therapy for some of that stock, and we just keep working through the most decrepit buildings, and over time we'll replace the whole system.
So, Dr. Thomas, how do we do that in this world where so many of those physical plants that you're describing are owned by major healthcare REITs with long-term leases in place, with operators who are just landlords? How do we do that?
Okay, there's a saying in business: somebody's going to get a haircut. So for those who don't follow business closely, what that means is somebody's got an inflated value on their balance sheet somewhere, and reality is going to catch up with them. So what's the real value of some of these properties that struggle with occupancy, can't make a profit, the building is derelict? I don't know what's on their balance sheet, but what's it really worth? So to the entrepreneurs on the call, I'm just going to say, there's going to be some buy low opportunities out there, because the market just won't sustain some of these valuations in a context where the pendulum is swinging away from licensed institutional care toward HCBS.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. We shall see. Mary Ann writes, how do we support creation of more greenhouses? This is a great question. I'll say something about this, that are of the community culture you speak of. Individuals want to support them, but not the architects. Architects.
Oh my gosh.
I love them because they're creative people but try to get an architect. Oh, Eleanor? Okay. Try to get an architect to break the frame of what they're accustomed to. Oh my, that's hard work. I don't know what to do about this. The architect will say, it'll take a greenhouse, for example. I'm sorry I'm beating up on architects. I have a friend who's an architect. How's that? I'll leave it say. But they will take the greenhouse concept, for example, and say, really, it would be easier if why don't we just put a hallway in here, and why don't we connect them, and why don't we have a foyer with a porte cochere that cars can pull under, and why don't we do an industrial kitchen? and they will just back you into the status quo. And you've got to be the person who says, no, no, no. That's the challenge. And if you're not willing to take the fight on, find something else to do, because Eleanor can tell you, they won't just do what you want. You've got to fight for it. Eleanor, you want to say something about that? Because I know that you have been there.
Well, and I think part of that whole force with the architects is driven by all the building regulations and the life safety code and all of the regulatory environment that has been wrapped around our buildings that is, quite frankly, not kept up. I mean, when you know this, Bill, when you try to build a small kitchen, I mean, you have to get exceptions on the state level, the federal level. We just haven't kept up with what is the right way to deliver care and services. I think the architects are just kind of the spokesperson for this whole body of regulations that stands behind them.
I would like to underline that. I think Eleanor's point is really an important one. They're spokespeople for a mass of calcified regulation, and that doesn't reflect kind of what we're seeking. I agree. Martha writes, how do Medicare and Medicaid get revolutionized to adapt to the reality? I actually think it's happening. I think population health, value-based reimbursement, social determinants of health, HCBS. When I do calls with policymakers in DC, these are the words they're talking about. Nobody's saying on these calls I'm at, well, how do we plug the hole in the nursing home? No, nobody's talking about that. People are saying, wow, how do we give people more choice? How do we protect their dignity and independence? I think we've got that. Steve, do you want to make a comment on that?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I think that we're all impatient because we're dealing with our moms and dads today. Dad qualifies for Medicaid. I need to get him somewhere other than a nursing home. And these things take time, but the good news is you're on these calls and we're moving in that direction.
And I'm going to say to direct everybody, if you've got the chat box open, look at Lori Presser's comment. I think it's super, super important that one of the things that we have traded when we went to institutional care is that you had eyeballs on everything, and you had responsible people with their eyeballs on everything, and they really tried their best to prevent some of these issues that she's talking about here. And so this is why I don't think it's a straight hop to aging in place. I think there's this hybrid third way that says we both get a place of independence and we get our own domicile, our own dwelling, and there's eyeballs around. There are eyeballs that make sure that we're not wandering into theft, abuse, bed bugs. It goes on, believe me, from there, even more than she wrote about. So I think this is what it is. We got to break out of this either or, and we have to build a new third way. And back to Eleanor's comment at the top, what's the next 20 years? The next 20 years is building the third way. It's not aging in place. It's not big box institutional facility based. It's a hybrid type thing that we haven't even really figured out yet, but allows us to take the best parts of what we have and put it together rather than just saying we have to choose one or the other. So I just want to say back to Lori, thanks for the comment. Really smart and spot on. Jeff is asking about CMS, and actually, I'm not too worried about CMS. I think CMS is I think CMS is on it. Honestly, I don't have a problem there. Chuck writes, COVID. Oh, I'm doing this. Eleanor should.
No, you just keep on going, buddy.
All right. We'll do that. COVID has brought to the fore a fear of what I'll say is institutional isolation. Yeah. Quarantine, apartments separated. Prior to COVID, there was norovirus. Oh, yeah. And by the way, norovirus didn't just leave, it's still there. One reason why we have less norovirus care is because we got serious about infection control. I mean, norovirus was like, woo, these people don't care about infection control. And norovirus now has to take place second fiddle to COVID. Well, it didn't go away. We just got better at infection control. That's what happened. Oh, Legionnaires, yeah. Is this a real fear? Can congregate communities mitigate this perception? So this is what I call the cruise ship problem. People who have large congregate settings have the cruise ship problem. And I'm just going to ask you, I mean, there's probably some people on here who can't wait to go for a cruise post-COVID. But the industry has a freaking nightmare of what happened. And it became really, really clear to a lot of people that these places, these ships could become floating Petri dishes with you in them. So we've got a similar problem, and we've got to prove to people that we've solved this without locking everybody in their apartment. And I'm going to say one thing about a piece of work I did for a company called Kimberly-Clark years ago. It's the kind of simple science that blew our minds. But what we did with Kimberly-Clark is we went to nursing homes and we gave people loads of like wipes and sanitizers and stuff. And then we made a game where different teams in the nursing home would compete for we had a detector that would say how much the stuff was getting used, and they'd compete to have the highest level of cleaning surfaces, and infections just dropped, boom, because people were wiping down surfaces and they were having fun and competing, and when the project ended and they went back to the way it was before, the infections went up. So just cleaning surfaces, making it fun and important to clean surfaces, that's a thing we can do. I'm not even getting into washing our hands. So our challenge is to get the established aging services to, as is Barbara, to acknowledge and partner with community-based services.
And Barbara is the executive director of the Village to Village Network, the Villages.
Yay! I started the Columbus one. Yay!
So Village to Village, that's probably the best example of the future and where this is going. For those who don't know about them, catch up. All right. Get aging services to acknowledge and work with community-based services. Oh my God. The pandemic opened the door in many communities to explore alternative. So yeah, this is a castle problem. A lot of aging services are run by organizations that invested millions and millions and millions of dollars in tangible real estate assets. Not all of them, but the ones I'm talking about. And the most important subject at every board meeting is, do we have the money we need to pay the mortgage? So they tend to look at the future in terms of what is there in our network of services that helps us pay the mortgage, rather than saying, how about if we just forget about that and get out in the community and serve people where they are? That's generally not a conversation that they're having. Now, everybody knows I'm generalizing because there are some organizations that are doing a good job with this. I'm just here to point out that the overhang of debt on large purpose-built buildings is a major impediment to the shift to community-based services. That's what I'm saying. Anonymous attendee writes, is there a role for policy? If yes, what policy? I'm going to say to you, no, there's no role for policy. Stop thinking about it. Don't do anything about it. Innovate your way around it. I'm looking at you, Eleanor. You're a great example of somebody who's done that. Innovate your way. Just stop it with the policy, okay? You don't have time, energy, or money to change policy. You have to hack the system. You got to take whatever's in the book and make it work. And I'll give you one famous, to me, example from Greenhouse. There's a policy that says a nursing home must have a separate enclosed room for the washing of dishes. And when we first started building greenhouses, we went to states where we were building greenhouses and we said, we have a separate enclosed room for the washing of dishes. It's located to the left of the sink under the counter. And they were like, okay, just want to make sure you had that. And we're like, yeah, we do. And in the regs, it didn't say how big it had to be. It just had to be big enough to wash the dishes. So if you're washing dishes for 100 people, it's got to be a pretty big room to get that job done, right? If you're washing dishes for 10 people, you can do it in a dishwasher. All right. What's the minimum viable size number of households needed to build a greenhouse community? You know, Ravi, I got to tell you, the answer is it depends. Depends on land cost, depends on your access to cost of capital, bunch of things. But if you ping the greenhouse people at the Greenhouse Project, they have a very good handle on this.
And
Bill,
yeah, I love this next question from Josh Bagley. And Josh is he runs a small house that's inside of a life plan community in Virginia called Goodwin House.
Oh,
well, yeah, Goodwin House.
Hey,
Who doesn't love Goodwin House? All right, so I have 100 mil to give to organizations that have figured out and need to scale. Who are they and why? So Village to Village Network gets a pile of money. Silvernest and Silvernest-like organizations get a pile of money. HCBS pioneers, for example, like LifeSpark is a company you're going to be hearing about. They're based in Minnesota. They are pioneering kind of person-centered population health. They get a pile of money. And actually, I would give a pile of money to a company that was willing to buy decrepit nursing homes, take them down and replace them with vibrant HCBS communities. And that 100 million went fast, Josh. So I'm just telling you.
Great question, Josh.
Very, very good.
Those are the types, this just reminds me of back in the Erickson school when we'd throw questions like that at Dr. Bill.
Yeah, very good. So I'm going to tell you something else that's super important. We will stop at the top of the hour. I mean, so okay. Steve, if you've got a wrap, whatever your wrap is, you tell me.
It's up to you. Like if you can go a little bit long and get through these remaining questions, great. But if we need to wrap up at 1, we'll just stop in 3 minutes. But if you want to just keep on going with these questions and we'll wrap up.
I'll do the next 3 questions.
Okay, great. And then we'll wrap it up and we're done. And just for everybody, we recorded this. It'll be on podcast. We'll send the chat to everybody. I'll send the links to all Bill's contacts and all that, and Eleanor as well. And but
yeah, you guys, I just want to say you guys are wrecking it in the chat. So okay, here we go. How do we change the healthcare model in our country to a wellness model? This, Mark, I think is not the right question. You're actually, I think you hit it in the second half. We need an alternative delivery system that is grown out of a different rootstock than the hospital system. People keep going to hospital systems and wanting them to change. They will not change. The new approach has to be grown from new root stock. It has to come up out of the community. You will not change the healthcare system. Will not change. Isabel writes, what suggestions do you have for the reluctance of healthcare workers to get the COVID vaccine? Okay. Speaking directly, the COVID vaccine is safe and effective, and it is good for you and your family and your community. I've received the vaccine. Everyone in my family who's eligible to receive the vaccine has received it. I would never put my family at risk, and I have studied the medical literature and found that this is a safe intervention. And if you have better evidence, send it to me. If it's just your worries, let your worries go, because they're not warranted. Last question. Do you think Biden's $400 billion for home care is misguided? No, I think it's right on. And I don't care who's proposing $400 billion for home care. I say yes. So it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with where the future lives. And to wrap, the future lives in aging in community. That's the future. It's the third way. And all of you who came to hang out and be part of this today, you have an opportunity to be part of something truly extraordinary that your grandchildren will ask you about. Back in the 20s, when everything changed, what did you do? Were you part of it? Were you one of the leaders? Did you make a difference? That's the question your grandchildren will ask you. So be the person who can speak with pride to your grandchildren about what you did, because they will want to know. That's all I have to say. Awesome.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Eleanor, for helping out. Especially thanks to the audience for the pointed questions. And we'll follow up with the recording and the chat and all of that. And Bill, thanks so much for making time to talk to us today. It was just absolutely amazing. See you guys. Have fun storming the castle. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.